I got a question for you. Does this here look like a market that is crashing? Now you've got to wonder, how is it that I've been able to show you the future before it occurs, and you can see the market unfold just as if it were like clockwork? Based on the natural laws of the market, they repeat in set amount of time. What I mean by that is, things that occurred in the past in a set sequence can often occur into the future, albeit with some form of divergence or inversion. However, as you've seen, the market does repeat in a set fashion, and we're able to call its moves before it happens. H. Jonathan, now what you've noticed is that I don't have anything on my chart. I don't have any lines. I don't have any form of technical analysis. When I call these moves, I'm using a simple method by W. Gann, which was his mass pressure charts. You saw me call the high from up here. We had some difficulty finding the low. We had to use a few different methods to pinpoint the low into October. The eventual low came on the 27th of October. However, the theory was always going to be that the market would top out in August. We had in some past videos some price targets around here. We may have even come down to that final one. I've got the original workbook on another computer, so I should really get to that computer and take a look. But I'm pretty sure we probably went down to that very bottom price target before the market reversed. The original thesis was that we were going to get some form of low around September, the end of September. Once that broke through, we were looking towards I think it was the 9th to the 10th of October. The market did rebound or vibrate off that date, did roll over, creating a lower low, which was in divergence, or it would be a divergence to the actual forecast, because the forecast was suggesting a higher low around here. So it did break lower, and it broke these lows here that were set in October, and also these lows here that were set back in May, before scooting higher, and it's going to give us that end of year rally. Now, there is something interesting in this, because the market doesn't always follow this exact same pattern, but we're able to know in advance what is the likely bias of the market, and we do that by using the mass pressure chart. And I can tell you for a fact, if I grab a pencil right now, I have no idea what happened there with my keyboard, that this here does not look like a crashing market. In fact, sure, we may get some decline at one stage or another, but it is very certain that eventually this top is going to be crossed. Once that top is crossed, we are then targeting the January 2022 tops. Now, I could be wrong. I just wanted to say that I could be wrong, but the way things are pointing and the way things are painting in the stars, so to speak, there is a very high chance that we're going to cross this January 2022 top, and the market is going to rush possibly up to that 40,000 mark or higher. We'll have to see about that. But this here does not signify a crashing market. In fact, if it does come up and it does touch this top here and then revert, that would just be a double top formation and still acceptable in my opinion. The reason for that is because of our 2024 forecast. Now, the 2024 forecast is an interesting one because it paints a similar picture to what it has in the past. And while we're on that topic, I might as well just introduce you. The 2024 forecast is available. It's at checkout.schoolofchange.com/the-forecaster-SL. And basically, you can join in here. You can get access to it for a yearly fee of $897. And you can see the future for basically the Australian, American, Bitcoin, and gold market before it occurs. You'll also get 60 monthly trend change dates. And these will be dates in the future where the market is likely to change trend. And I'll also provide you quarterly updates on the forecast if the forecast is becoming inaccurate. So that is your introduction there. because the 2024 forecast is out now and you can buy it. You can get access to it. But that's not the purpose of this video. This video, I wanted to show you how to use the sun. On the YouTube channel, I put out a poll and I said, what is one thing that I could show you how to do? I gave just 3 ideas, and basically 70% of you said you want to learn a method on how to forecast using the sun. So in this video, I'm going to teach you that. Now, I go into a more in-depth solar forecasting method, basically on our Gann mastery program, and also an individual program called Time by Degrees. But basically, we can get this whole spreadsheet filled out, and basically this whole spreadsheet here filled out with all the turn dates for the year before the year has even unfolded. And I've shown you in the past how to do this, or how I do this on other videos, but now I'm actually teaching this method, and this is probably one of the most guarded methods that I have not publicly shown, but alluded to many, many times. So I'm going to teach you another version or another method which uses the sun, in the attempt that you'll be able to maybe become fascinated with this and start to explore more yourself. So people don't like me going through past historical data, but if you're a resident of Australia, you'll know that ASICS doesn't like you to forecast into the future. They say that's a big no-no, and that could potentially lead people to following a signal, or thinking that something is a signal and they should act upon that. Nothing I do here is a buy or sell signal. I am just purely showing you the methods of W.D. Gann and how they apply to markets today. You shouldn't be relying on anything I say. You should be using this as a form of education. Okay. So how do we use the sun? Well, first of all, there's 3 ways. You can use an ephemeris. You can use a charting tool. Basically, Optima has something called time by degrees, time by solar degrees in here, and because we're using the sun. In this instance, I'm going to show you how to use an ephemeris, okay? So I'm just going to lock this chart so it doesn't change. We've got it set to basically Australian time. If we're using the American market, we should probably switch it to the American market. We're going to now turn everything off but the sun, because that's the method I'm showing you today. Of course, if you wanted to use any other form of forecasting, you would use the other planets in this instance, okay? I'm going to be showing you the sun. And again, what I'm going to show you is for educational purposes only, and you shouldn't use this in real markets, okay? Because you can get it wrong and you will lose money. So what I want to do is I want to pinpoint an important high or an important low. Now, what is an important high or important low? There's one way we can basically filter these out, and that's by using a swing chart. Basically, it's going to get rid of all these minor ones, and it's going to show us the important ones. And I'm going to change this to basically a 3-tier swing chart, which means that it's taking into account 3 swings to form 1 swing. So there has to be 3 moves in this to form 1 swing. This is a swing higher without a swing lower down here. That's why it is formed like this. But anyway, so now what we've done is we've basically taken all the market data, and it's given us just basic swings. Now I want to find an important high and an important low. It's a very simple process. We just pinpoint one. Ideally, we're looking for the bottom of the barrel, which is these ones down here, or we're looking for the top of the tops, which would be like this one up here. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm going to basically pinpoint one. Let's just use this January 5th, 2022. We're now going to delete our swing chart because we don't need it anymore. Now what I want to do is I want to find the sun for January 5th, 2022. So I'm going to move this back to January the 5th. And I'll just do midday just for the time. It won't alter. You'll see if when I change the clock here, and I go more into this in the Gann Mastery program, when I change the clock here, it'll actually change the minutes of the longitude here. So as you move this, it can actually change a whole degree. So it goes from 284 up to 285. So I'm just going to use midday just for this instance here. Now what we can see is that the sun is currently at 285 degrees in 20 minutes. Or if we were to take this 285 and spin it around a wheel, it is currently at 270, 300, 285, would convert to 15 degrees Capricorn and 20 minutes. Okay, so that is why when we use the sun and when we use a zodiac, we're not interested in people's star signs. Okay, this is the star sign side of astrology. Yeah, it's got some truth to it. It works. It's based on historical evidence, historical data, blah blah blah. But we're looking for more how to time things in the world, and we do that by basically plotting, as the ancients did, the planet's movements around a zodiac. Okay. So at the moment it is at 15 degrees Capricorn, and basically what we want to do is we want to go forward and see what the market does each time it gets back to 15 degrees of each sign. Now there are some hot spots in this. For example, if you move forward 3 signs, so 1, 2, 3, or 4 signs in this instance, 1, 2, 3. If we move forward 3 signs or 4 signs, we're moving around basically in a square. And when we have a square movement, we're talking about like a hard aspect, okay? So the market is generally likely to find more defined turning points, okay? When we move in basically around in a trine, which is every four zodiac signs from where it's starting, that is more of a soft aspect. So then in this instance, we should see sometimes or sometimes not, more of a trend continuation than a trend reversal. So basically what we want to do is we want to find our first turning point. So we're going to move forward 30 degrees in time. So we want to get to 15 degrees Capricorn. From 15 degrees Capricorn to 15 degrees Aquarius. So basically we want to move it from 285, and we basically we want to go forward 30 days. So we'll take a look at the 5th of Feb. We'll go forward 30 days first. So 5th of Feb, we'll take a look at this. Now we're at 16. So we've got to go back one, and we're at 15, okay? So we're at 15 Aquarius, and we move from 15 Capricorn. So we're now on the 4th of Feb. If we go back to our chart, basically we want to see some form of vibration in the market around the 4th of February, okay? So date marker, this one here, was the 5th of January. 5th of January. And if we go to the 4th, we see a form of vibration on the 4th of Feb, okay? What we want to do now is we want to go forward another 30 degrees because we want to go from, 30 degrees is not the same as 30 days because the sun doesn't move exactly 1 degree a day, and that's why we have to alter it a bit. So we're going to go from our 5th of January to the 5th of March, and that is basically 15 degrees Pisces. So we're going to move forward to the 5th of March, and now we want to see what our degree is, so it's 15 degrees on the 5th. So we'll keep that. So the 5th of March is now pinpointed, okay? So now what we want to do is get our date marker, and we want to look for the 5th. So the 5th here is separated by a weekend. A top came on the 3rd. The market pushed down, okay? So in this instance, we would mark the 3rd as our date, because the market was going to come down and possibly reverse into the 5th. However, some other event, could be based on another planet, could be based on an event in the world, had occurred which pushed the market past the 5th. In this instance, so if we take a look at the 3rd, the market topped out on the 13th. 13 degrees Pisces. So we're going to go from the 5th of January, which was Capricorn, through Aquarius, through Pisces, down to Aries. We're looking for the 5th of April. That is 15 degrees Aries. So let's go out to the 5th of April. 5th of April was a swing high to swing low. So the market was going to reverse on the 1st, hit the 5th, and then resumed its trend lower into the 7th. Now, if you do more research into this, you'll see that the 7th to 8th is also vibrating into the future here. Okay, so we've now moved forward 1, 2, 3. So we've moved forward 3 complete, which puts us into the 4th zodiac sign from where it began. Now we're going to go to the 5th of May. which takes us to basically 15 degrees Taurus. Stick with me because this is a very important 5th of May, very important lesson, okay? Something that no one is going to teach you publicly. Basically, the market topped out on the 4th of May. Didn't quite hit the 5th. The 5th was the turning date. So the market turned down on the 5th. Didn't top out on the 5th. Basically, still vibrating, ringing true. If you're not amazed, if you're not wondering what the fuck have I been taught my whole life because this is some other shit, then I don't know what I can say. Let's go to the 5th of June, which would take us to 15 degrees Gemini. Now what you see here is that the minutes is basically a lot lower than where it began. If you were to move it forward to get that complete minute, I think it began around the 40 minute mark. That would basically take us to the 6th of June. But we'll keep it on the 5th and we'll just see what happens. So looking for the 5th. We had a weekend. Basically, the 6th in this period was the top. Market came up, hit an original top, came down, tried to push, break, couldn't break through that original top, push lower. Now, what we're doing here is we're basically found an important top in the market. So this top is going to ring true until it doesn't, okay? Now don't look for accuracy. You can see we've had the 3rd, we've had the 4th, we've had the 4th. Now we're at the 6th. Don't look for the accuracy on the 5th, okay? Because we're looking at time by solar degrees and we're using the sun. Not only are we using the sun, we should give it a leeway of 1 to 2 days, okay? Now what I want to do is skip all this and get back to Capricorn. So we're going to go all the way around the zodiac and we're going to wait for the sun to hit 15 degrees Capricorn, which is the 5th of January. Because this is now a full 360 degrees from where it began. So it's back at that starting point. Albeit the exact time period is not correct. Let's go back a year. Start here. 18 minutes, sorry. 20 minutes, not 40. Okay. Let's go 40 year. We're now at 6. We want to get to that 20-minute mark just to make sure that we're at 360 degrees from where we started. So 15 degrees Capricorn, 5th of January 2023. Let's go forward in time to January 2023. Date marker, 5th. So that would be considered a high to low move in the market. So if I go to trend line, for example, if we grab our original top and we move to the bottom, I'm just highlighting the 2 dates here. We basically have a high to a low. Now what happens if you just repeat this into the future indefinitely? Well, you can until it doesn't work. If we are now looking for what's likely to occur, let's say, for example, we want to just make sure that this is still ringing true in November. We would then go to the 5th of November. So it's a bit off. We'll go to the 7th of November. So that's 15 degrees. Let's go to 7th of November. We saw the market topped out for a single day on the 8th before pushing lower to resume its strong uptrend. Now that's bullish. When the market is doing this to the downtrend or to the uptrend, okay, when you're using these time dates, these time cycles, this is bullish behavior. Market pushes down for 1 day and then reverses, breaking it basically 2 days later. And you wouldn't fight against that. You wouldn't try to call a double top. That's bullish, okay? So it's still basically working. So what we're now going to do now is we're going to forecast the future. And we're going to be looking for basically that sort of same time period of 15 degrees into December. So now we'd be looking for the 7th of December, 2023. Basically, yeah. So basically, we're looking for a possible move in the market to be either high or low, and between the 6th and the 8th. That's the sort of time frame you'd be looking for. Obviously, the 9th is a Saturday, so basically here you'd be looking for a high or low to occur. And you'd be using that to gauge if the market's likely to be bullish or bearish from here on out. And then you get 3 full revolutions around the zodiac as the market returns to where it was starting at 15 degrees Capricorn. You'd make sure that it's 20 minutes just for this sake. And we're getting a crossover now between the 5th and the 6th. So the sun is now vibrating into the 6th of January, no longer the 5th of January. This is why you need to calculate these with, you can't just go out and go, oh, I found a top on the 5th in the year 2000, and it's going to be a 5th forever. You need to continuously recalculate these and find the vibration as it moves into the future, okay? So now we'd be highlighting basically the 5th to the 6th of January for our next one. And that would give us basically our 2 swings. So yeah, I hope that helped. If you want to learn how to basically do this yourself, I teach you in the Gann Mastery program. If you don't have time for that, I give you all the dates in our 2024 forecasting service. Well, got any comments, leave them below, but this is basically a secretly guarded technique, a heavily guarded technique, and I really hope that you can learn something from this. Talk to you soon.